In the world of fine watchmaking and haute horology, there are some terminologies and complications used every day that have almost become synonyms to high pricing. Overworked and tourbillon, grand complication with astronomical indication and striking complication. And last but not the least, we have perpetual calendar and moon phase on display. But there are luxury brands out there that, despite having centuries-long history and uninterrupted dedication and contributions in the art of watchmaking, are producing not just some of the best watches on the market, but they also powered other haute horology brands by adding into their watches their own calibers, the heart beating inside the top-tier luxury watches. The brands that not only offer the highest level of mechanical watchmaking, but the complication of perpetual calendar, and then also the moon phase, the steel case for versatility, the thinness and elegance of size, and then the dial layout that you can admire for long each time you look at your wrist. If you were thinking what's the difference between a calendar watch, annual calendar complication, and the perpetual calendar, a regular calendar watch has time and date function only with 31 days on the date disc, and the watch complication does not have any regards to whether the month in question has 30 days or 31. And you have to adjust the date at the end of the month manually as required. Annual calendar is a complex watch and has the movement that can show the month of the year, but can also differentiate between the months having 30 and 31 days. Perpetual calendar complication is even more complex and one step ahead of annual calendar too. It is a masterpiece of watchmaking, where the watch not only takes into consideration all the number of days in the respective month of the year, but the watch also knows if it's a leap year. That occurs every 4 years, and it adjusts the date without having you to adjust it even once in 4 years. Accordingly, it not only shows just the time, but the date, the month, the year, and even the moon phase. Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Ultra Thin Perpetual Calendar was originally released in 2013 in the same 39mm case size and in the white dial, and then it wasn't until late 2016 when JLC released the black dial variant as featured in this video. The dial in this watch comes with 3 sub-dials at 3, 6 and 9 o'clock position, with date register at 3 o'clock, month at 6 and day register at 9 o'clock position. To help with the subtleness and elegance of the watch, yet not compromising on the readability and legibility of the sub-dials, they are slightly recessed in the dial, which does add a little pop factor and a layer of separation of sub-dials from the main dial. The dial is deep and beautifully matte black, although with changing of light, it does give blue glare from certain angles, which is likely due to the crystal that comes with AR coating applied to it. The dial features 50s inspired hour markers to surround its perimeter. Yet, thanks to the font chosen for sub-dials, along with their size proportions compared to the main dial, the watch maintains the modern and contemporary looks. The moon phase, just below 12 o'clock position, is simply beautiful, and its background is dark blue like you see after sunset hours with the moon glowing. To add further dramatic and luxury touch to the watch, there's a gold moon and stars that surround it. The window for the year comes between 7 and 8 o'clock position, and thanks to its dark black color background again, as much as you would think it will compromise the dial symmetry, it is small in size enough to not impact the dial symmetry, yet big enough that you can read the year without any problems. Due to complexity of perpetual movement watches, changing the date manually between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. can jeopardize watch operation and even damage the mechanical gears of the movement. JLC offered an adjustment warning indicator just above cannon pinion to remind the wearer when they must not adjust the date, with the window showing blue. The attention to detail is that even the dial hands have a hollow section to not block this warning indicator. The disc makes one full rotation in 24 hours and reminds you daily in the warning hours. A very sleek and nice touch by JLC. The ultra thinness of this watch at only 9.2mm is achieved by extra thin movement caliber 868 comprising of 336 parts, of which 46 are jewels, and measuring a thickness of only 4.72mm to beat at 28,800 vibrations per hour and offer 38 hours of power reserve. The self-winding movement offers court-stitch Geneva stripes on all the bridges, circular graining on the plates, and showcases polished and beveled edges throughout. And then there's a skeletonized gold rotor with JL logo crafted on it to ensure that the view of this beautiful integrated perpetual movement is not blocked. This movement knows all the dates for next 80 years and will run flawlessly until 1st of January 2100. Long time to go, but if you are concerned, you can send it to JLC for service in year 2100 and they will calibrate for you the dates for next century. While the watch is spectacular in every department when viewed from naked eye, under the macro I had somewhat different stories to uncover. The underside of Seconds Hand is not polished or machined, but since no one does the polishing here, at least in all the brands and watches I have seen and reviewed, so I don't consider it a big problem. The hands come with a polished and a sand-blasted side, and while I do like the contrast, the surface roughness on polished side isn't quite impressive. Looking at the minute hand, the dust is quite noticeable and it's just something that I think could have been bettered or avoided. Looking closely at the Seconds Hand, there is also dust all around, and the joint overall looks very basic in its finish and form. The subdial hand for the day does not show much difference, and what I interpret here is not so much dust or dirt, but actual smudge marks. The hand for date also comes with similar inferior finish and form, and the joint again shows lack of attention to detail. The hour markers come with the same dust and smudge marks, and this poorly executed finish is consistent across all the hour markers, which I find not only surprising but a little sad as well. Looking at the Gold Moon, dust is again evident and surface finish is not the best I've seen under the macro. If you look at the star to the left of the moon, there is a high spot between the star and the moon, which shows that this watch wasn't properly inspected in the factory and raises more questions on QC checks at JLC. The stars themselves also don't show sharp and symmetrical ends, which is surely not what I was expecting to see under the macro. On the wrist, the 39mm case on this ultra-thin perpetual calendar wears exceptionally well, and true to its dressy looks and form, it does go very well with dressy and formal attire. Although the case is 39mm in size, the lug-to-lug of the watch is 45.5mm, so while it does wear subtle, it has a decent amount of wrist presence to fill your wrist. My wrist size is 6.5 inches and wristband is 55mm. So this watch at lug-to-lug of 45.5mm wears in the center of my wrist, and I personally find this size to be just the sweet spot for a dress watch on my wrist. The watch lugs taper down slightly to allow the watch to contour to the wrist, and although there's a slight gap I can see between the lugs and my wrist, the watch is so thin that it doesn't look out of place or context, and I quite like the overall wear of the watch on my wrist. The watch comes with double deployant butterfly clasp, but since there are no quick release buttons, expect some difficulty opening it. The clasp, however, does look sturdy, strong and rugged. The leather strap is very soft and thin, and not only it looks sleek, it also wears very comfortably. Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Ultra Thin Perpetual Calendar Moonface is the watch for you that offers the haute horology experience and brand history of close to 2 centuries, and then the complication that you simply can't imagine getting hold of from any other luxury watch manufacturers, especially at the price point it comes in. While it is a beautiful watch, it does show imperfections under the macro, and there's dust, smudge and even surface flaws I could see, and it does somewhat show some lack of love from JLC when viewed at macro level. It probably still doesn't break the deal for me personally, but I just don't understand, after all the mastery in watchmaking by JLC, attention to detail in every bridge, every plate, even the screws and spring coil of the movement, Why can't the dial itself, what we look at the most, be treated with more love, dedication, commitment and concern, especially when the watch is from hot horology manufacturer?